We are badly wired. Just look at these images. These red lines are curvy, right? Oh. And these orange circles are of different sizes, right? These two squares are definitely different shades of gray. Wait a minute. And when the image is being put back together, it's like we've learned nothing. Okay, so we've proven our vision can play tricks on us. Maybe some bad wires behind those eyes of ours. But can something like this happen in other parts of our brain, specifically in parts that are responsible for judgment and decision making? Well, say I would ask you after you finished reading your favorite book, which of these you have encountered more? Words that begin with the letter R, for example radio, or words that have R in the third position, for example forest. The majority of people will judge that R is found more in the beginning of words, but in fact R is twice as likely to be found in the third position. Could it be that we draw our conclusion relying solely on how easy it is to recall words that begin with R? And how would you go about rating these causes of death in the world, from highest chance of dying from it to the lowest? Homicide, terrorism, cancer, heart disease, suicide. Many will judge terrorism or homicide to be one of the leading causes of death around the world, when in fact they are at the bottom, and heart disease is number one by a huge margin. Maybe we should pay a bit more attention to the prevention of heart-related diseases. These two examples show the power of the availability heuristic. The easier it is for us to recall something from memory, the more likely we believe that something will occur. This heuristic, or mental shortcut, explains our tendency to be affected so much by the media that constantly portrays rare events in dramatic and memorable ways. People getting killed by terrorism or homicide is much more newsworthy and exciting to cover than people dying from heart failure. The amount of coverage of these rare events does not correlate with reality. Violence and crime makes for much better television. Because of this heuristic, our worldview can be skewed and inaccurate in relation to the real facts. Try also to consider this. Say I gave you only 5 seconds to guess the product of the following. What's the result? Just give a guess. Turns out that if I would have arranged the numbers differently, like so, your guess would have been higher by quite a lot. When this experiment was done, participants that answered the first version had the median value of 512, and the ones that answered the second version had the median value of 2,250. So even though we know that the order of the numbers doesn't matter, it greatly affects our estimations. This example shows the effect of the anchoring bias, which makes a person rely too heavily on an initial piece of information to make subsequent decision or judgment. The psychology professors Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman exposed these two mental shortcuts in the early 70s, and since then they have been shown to affect many areas of our lives, including economics and politics. In another study on anchoring, conducted by psychology professor Dan Ariely, participants were asked to write down the last 2 digits of their social security number, and then to consider if they would pay that much money for a variety of products, like wine, chocolate, or computer equipment. Later, they participated in an auction where they needed to bid for similar products. Participants that wrote down a larger 2-digit number had significantly higher bids than those that wrote a smaller number. In this example, the anchor was completely random and unrelated to the task, yet affected the participants' judgments. It really makes me wonder about all these numbers we see all the time on ads and shop windows. Anchors are being pushed at us from every direction. Because of the strength of this effect, we should also be very sensitive to the first introduced number during any kind of negotiation. If this brain wiring keeps causing us to get the wrong answer or judgment, why does it even exist in us to begin with? Turns out that these heuristics play a major role in our ability to make decisions quickly. They usually help us to achieve good enough results, and when we don't have much time on our hands, good enough is probably sufficient. Our brain is constantly flooded with information. Visual, auditory, sensory. So it makes sense that it will develop some kind of shortcuts to process it all quickly. The problem is that we are not always aware when our brain is taking a shortcut, and we are so quick to trust our initial intuition. But as we just saw, our initial intuition about things might be completely off and seriously affect the way that we view the world or use our money. If only we could be more aware of these tricky processes. and consider our thoughts more carefully. I guess all we can do is hope that there aren't too many cognitive biases that we need to be aware of. Ah, shit. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to be updated when a new video like this comes out, you can subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button below and ringing the bell next to it. Also, for a continued support of the channel, please consider becoming a patron. There is a link in the description. See you next time.